In the 1990s, the world was shocked by a series of deaths that seemed to have emerged from a collective nightmare. These were no ordinary murders, nor unexplained accidents. They were planned rituals involving dozens of people who believed they were embarking on a cosmic journey toward a greater destiny. The name behind these tragedies was the Order of the Solar Temple. The Order of the Solar Temple emerged in the 1980s, inspired by a blend of esoteric beliefs, theories about the afterlife, and a distorted view of spirituality. Its founders, Joseph DiMambro and Luc Jouret, created a powerful narrative that blended occultism, apocalyptic prophecies, and the promise of rebirth in a new world. Joseph DiMambro, charismatic and manipulative, presented himself as a spiritual master with access to hidden truths. Luc Jouret, a physician and speaker, was the public face, responsible for attracting new followers with speeches on ecology, spirituality, and the need to prepare humanity for great transformations. The combination of the two worked like a magnet. People from different countries, many of them upper middle class, were drawn by the promise of higher knowledge and the idea of being part of a cosmic mission. The Solar Temple seemed to offer purpose amid the uncertainties of modern life. However, behind the mystical facade lay a system of psychological control and manipulation. The leaders demanded absolute devotion, established secret rituals, and imposed strict rules. Questioning them meant being ostracized or, in extreme cases, considered a traitor to the cause. The sect's rituals were laden with Templar symbols, candles, robes, and chants. Everything was carefully staged to create an atmosphere of transcendence. Members were convinced they were participating in something greater than life itself, something that justified any sacrifice. But the central narrative that kept everyone trapped was the belief in an impending apocalypse. According to DiMambro, Earth was doomed, and only the chosen ones of the Order of the Solar Temple would be saved, spiritually migrating to a superior planet in the constellation of Sirius. The idea seemed absurd to outsiders, but to the members, immersed in years of indoctrination, it made sense. The promise of escaping a corrupted world to be reborn in a higher reality was too seductive to question. In October 1994, the first major tragedy came to light. In villages in Switzerland and Canada, 53 members of the Order of the Solar Temple were found dead. Some had ingested poison, others had been shot, and many bodies had been arranged in a star shape as part of a macabre ritual. Investigations revealed that the leaders had convinced their followers that this was the time of transition. Death was not seen as an end, but as a necessary passage to reach the heavenly promise. The international shock was immediate. How could so many educated people, many with families and stable careers, have surrendered to a collective death pact? The media began to exploit every detail, transforming the Solar Temple into a synonym for deadly fanaticism. But the horror didn't stop in 1994. In late 1995, new mass suicides occurred, this time involving 16 more people in France. The pattern was the same: ritualistic deaths, bodies arranged symbolically, and messages that spoke of rebirth in another world. In 1997, another episode occurred, this time in Quebec, Canada. 5 people, including children, were found dead in yet another act of macabre devotion. The cycle of tragedies seemed endless, always marked by the belief that death was liberation. Authorities realized that the sect hadn't dissolved with the first deaths. Remnants of the organization remained active, keeping the apocalyptic ideology alive and preparing followers for new cosmic departures. Subsequent investigations revealed that DiMambro had manipulated even the most intimate details of his members' lives. He chose partners, controlled births, and claimed his own daughter was a kind of spiritual messiah. To sustain the charade, he used illusionist tricks in rituals, such as light projections to simulate divine apparitions. The psychological manipulation was so intense that for many members there was no life outside the solar temple. External reality seemed meaningless, while the cult offered belonging, purpose, and the promise of transcendence. Over the years, it was discovered that the sect also amassed large sums of money. Many followers handed over fortunes to the leaders, believing their assets would be worthless after their departure. This economic power helped maintain control over the members and financed Dimambro and Jure's lavish lifestyles. The Solar Temple case was not just an isolated tragedy, but part of a broader phenomenon of apocalyptic cults in the 1990s. It was the same decade that would see the mass suicides of the Heaven's Gate cult in the United States, all motivated by the belief that the end was near. A psicologia por trás desses eventos revela como líderes carismáticos conseguem explorar vulnerabilidades humanas. Em momentos de crise ou incerteza, muitas pessoas buscam respostas, propósito e comunidade. Quando alguém oferece tudo isso em pacote espiritual, o perigo da manipulação se torna real. The psychology behind these events reveals how charismatic leaders exploit human vulnerabilities. In times of crisis or uncertainty, many people seek answers, purpose, and community. When someone offers all of these in a spiritual package, the danger of manipulation becomes real. What makes the case even more disturbing is the involvement of entire families. Fathers and mothers dragged their children into the rituals, believing they were offering them salvation, when in fact they were condemning them to a cruel end. The mass deaths of the Order of the Solar Temple left a deep mark on the collective memory. They are remembered as an extreme example of how the human mind can be captured by destructive ideas, even when they seem absurd to outsiders. To this day, scholars of psychology, criminology, and sociology analyze the case in search of answers. How is it possible that so many people accepted death as a way out? What psychological mechanisms enabled such a level of obedience and devotion? Some point to the theory of cognitive dissonance. When someone invests time, energy, and belief in an idea, it becomes nearly impossible to admit they were wrong. Death, in this context, seemed the ultimate test of fidelity. Others highlight the phenomenon of groupthink, where the search for consensus within the community suppresses any dissenting voice. Those who doubted were silenced, and the collective silence reinforced the belief that everyone shared the same truth. The Solar Temple became a grim warning about the power of cults and the vulnerability of the human mind. It showed that intelligence or education are no barriers to psychological manipulation, and that anyone, under the right circumstances, can be captured by a destructive narrative. The deaths of the 1990s still echo as a warning. In a world where new beliefs and leaders continue to emerge, the story of the Order of the Solar Temple reminds us that the line between faith and fanaticism can be thin and deadly. What remains, as we revisit these episodes, is a sense of unease, a mixture of disbelief and fear at the human capacity to believe, obey, and even sacrifice one's own life for the promise of salvation. And perhaps this is the most disturbing reflection. The human mind, in its relentless search for meaning, can become its greatest trap. After all, how do we know if what we believe in frees us or destroys us? Did you enjoy the content? Leave a like, comment your impressions, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any more Fragments of the Mind, where we reveal what many prefer to ignore.